Welcome back to the Plat Valorant YouTube channel. Today we're doing a First Strike preview video about one of the top teams in Europe and one of the top teams in the world as well. It's Fun Plus Phoenix, a name which I will never get sick of saying. Everyone calls them FPX because it's a truly ridiculous name for an organization. Fun Plus Phoenix. I don't even understand how you come up with a name like that, honestly, Wyatt. Where does that even come from? I don't get it.
Doesn't matter though, because they got a lot of money.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it absolutely doesn't. They're I think, an organization from China who invested a little bit in kind of tier 2 CS before making the plunge into Valorant, because some of the NA talent that's currently like popping off in the scene, in Valorant that is, was on that team in CS. Anyway, that's a story for another time. I'm just waffling at this point, because FPX, the European team, is legit. I think everyone has them ranked as a top 3 team in the world currently. People are popping off on Reddit talking about how their style of the game is like the future. That people are getting hyped about how they play for the orbs. Everyone loves orbs. Everyone loves the ult orbs.
Yeah, if you're a real fucking math head, you break out the TI-83 and that's how you're playing Valorant. You just wait a second, but if we get the orbs every round, we're gonna have ults X percentage more times than the enemies. If you're that type of player, wow, you'll love this team.
Yeah,
but also, those guys, there's a lot of those people out there, and they
really
love posting on Reddit.
Yeah, I really enjoy that type of analysis, like the very math-based analysis, because it kind of ignores everything that happens on you with your eyes see and just goes by the numbers. But you know, there is definitely there is definitely merit to that. So FPX, though, also appeal not just to the math heads, but I believe they appeal to the people that love structured, kind of strategic heavy Valorant. They play like a heavy utility composition most of the time. A lot of Breach, a lot of Sova, even before the Breach was mega powerful. Angel is somebody that's known from he's their IGL, Angel. He's known from CS as somebody that loves to like kind of wind the clock down and go for these big sight hits and kind of play with his opponent's heads. And it's very much, I mean, does this sound too 5-head sips wine of me to say that they're the thinking man's team?
They certainly are at the moment the thinking man's team.
I love that I'll
let you get that.
I'm saying this with a bunch of Pringles in the background as well.
Drinking a $10.99 wine out of that glass. The classy thinking man.
It's not even a wine glass, it's a cocktail glass. I mean,
well, yeah, out of a cocktail glass.
Life is hard here. But yeah, FPX is, yeah, I mean, they are somewhat the thinking man's team. They're not like a G2 that plays instinctively and tries to go off the game sense of their own team. They come into every map with a plan.
Yeah, though they're individually, their players will have, specifically Zyppan, he will sometimes just make magic happen in terms of a fluid game, like fluid game decisions and just raw fragging, right? Sure. But yeah, overall, they are that structured team. And a lot of it is just so CIS, CSGO-esque. The running down the clock, these crazy last-second executes, just flooding a bomb site with utility, getting the bomb down at the final hour of a round. That is very CIS, CSGO style. And of course, Angel was the in-game leader in CSGO for Hellraisers for, I think, I don't know, 6 years, pretty much the entirety of CSGO up until Valorant came out. And it was really just towards the end of his tenure in CSGO that Hellraisers team, they were becoming a bit more international, and they were sort of struggling at that point to find a coherent roster. And I imagine that's one of the reasons that Angel did end up making the switch to Valorant, just to get a fresh start, right?
Yeah. Before we dive into the players, because I love Angel's story, but I kind of want to tee up the story of FPX overall, because to me, they're kind of the chosen second wave super team. You compare them to G2, who we've done a video on as well, so if you're not familiar with the European scene, everything in Europe basically starts and ends with G2 because they're dominating the scene right now, so you need to watch that video in order to have some of the context for this. But Fun Plus Phoenix are the second wave super team. This was a team that was formed from 2 rosters that were attempting to become #1 rosters themselves. That's Party Parrots, who were a CIS team. Basically, all you need to know about that is that it was Angel, it was Shao. They played a bit like Fun Plus Phoenix in that kind of in the sense that Angel was IGLing for them, and they combined that with a Swedish roster, and that roster was called Fabriken. They were known as the Sageless team. They were the number one team in Europe that didn't play with a Sage. And they had great executes, some pretty good fraggers, some incredible fraggers like Zyppan as well. And they kind of melded those two rosters together to form a super team to challenge G2. And that is really what this team is all about. It's about slow development of a second wave super team, as in one that didn't form at the beginning of the scene, but combined two teams that were already present in order to try and become the best team in Europe. And they are doing a great job of it. They are within touching distance of being the number one team in Europe. It is so close, and it seems like every tournament, the gap closes just a little bit more, and the trajectory that they're on seems to be destined to overtake G2, I would say. It seems very anime of me to say that, but it really does seem like they are destined to become the best team in Europe.
Yeah, at least for a time. Or at least they will, I think it's inevitable that they will win tournaments and beat G2 in grand finals.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think there will be a stretch of time where they're just a dominant number one like G2 had been over the summer. And for the Ignition series, I find that unlikely, but winning tournaments, 100%. And yeah, it's such a unique team to come together, right? I don't really think that we'd ever seen anything like this in CSGO's history, where you take an all Swedish roster and an all CIS roster and you bring them together. The strategy of the CIS team coming in from Angel, and then just this insane fragging, the talent from that Swedish roster just coming together to form this excellent, well-rounded team. Very unique in that way, and very exciting.
Extremely exciting. Especially because you take the like Sageless style of Fabriken, the Swedes, and you combine it with that strategic element from Angel and Shao from Party Parrots. And you get just a team that was ahead of the meta in some sense, because they had already dropped the Sage when Sage was trending out and then got nerfed really heavily. And you kind of combine this beautiful fragging where you're really, in order to compete with G2, you need a super team. Like, you need players that can frag on all positions, and that's what FPX have right here.
Yeah, sort of a point to take us in a different direction, or at least maybe not take us in a different direction, but I think a point that's worth making is that a big difference in EU versus NA in these early days of Valorant are the number of organizations that are actually putting the money forward to sign teams early. In NA, and even still in NA, I mean, it's just a never-ending stream of money flying into the scene. Every team is getting signed. If you have ever, I don't know, maybe you bought CSGO and didn't play it, you might be able to get signed just based on that in NA. It's astounding. But in EU, you can be rolling teams for months and still be unsigned.
Yeah.
And it's actually, in a perverse way, kind of helped EU to the extent, at least, that it's easier to form super teams because there are many unsigned players. And many unsigned teams. So you actually, in that scene, have the opportunity to put together these super teams. Where in NA, already, immediately, there were going to be all of the hurdles of buyouts and contract negotiations. Like, you're not going to see tens be able to just go ahead and join, like, I don't know, TSM or something. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to combine teams together. So
Fabriken and Party Parrots, not represented by any organization. That's what facilitated this. Yeah, and absolutely should have been. I mean, Party Parrots was the number one team in Europe before G2 came around. They weren't dominant, but they were winning enough so that you could reasonably call them the number one team. And then they combined with Fabriken and make an even better team. It just so happens that G2 were doing the same thing at the same time. And this only happened at the beginning of August. That's the reason that I bring up this match page here, is to show you the dates involved. Is that they played their first game in August here, you know, just after G2 had been playing their first games as well. And this is when the European scene really first kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, it was the final event in Europe, that last Ignition Series event. What was the name of it again? I can't.
I'm going to look at their matches once again in order to find it out. It was the Blast Twitch Invitational.
Blast was the last invitational for the Ignition Series EU. And that was really, not only was it FPX's closest game against G2, where they narrowly lost on the final map on Split in a BO5 where they actually were winning more maps up until that point because G2 had the map advantage because they won the upper bracket final. And FPX looked like they were going to win. And G2 just, through raw individual skill, pulled magic out of nowhere at the very end of the game to actually close it out. But FPX, it looked like they were finally going to do it. And they just came so close and just so short. But it was also that event that really makes it seem like EU is actually kind of stepping into a space where they're going to be flourishing in terms of the viewership, maybe like the economy of that scene where more organizations are going to be involved, not just because of First Strike coming in, but also because the viewership for that event, which in the finals eclipsed 100K, was by far the biggest tournament for EU yet.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it bears dipping into some of these players now, because we've kind of set up the team and what they're involved with and what they're aiming for here, which is first or bust, basically, right? Like, they're going into First Strike in order to win it. They're looking to upset G2. And if they were able to do it, my God, what an incredible achievement to win the first Riot-sponsored, or rather Riot-run event. After, they're like, G2, yeah, you guys can take the stuff, the precursor events, the Ignition series. We'll take the full first Riot event. That would be crazy. But let's dig into some of the player storylines. You started teeing up the Angel storyline, which, in my opinion, is the best storyline. I was about to say in the whole of Valorant, and then I had to check myself because there are a lot of other CS players that are coming in. I mean, the whole of like the T1 redemption arc with like a lot of those guys coming off the iBuyPower stuff is really cool. But something about Angel really excites me when I watch him, because you can tell that he's such an incredible IGL by the way that his teams play, both Party Pirates and FPX, but also the guy can frag. The guy's such a good entry fragger, and I didn't expect this whatsoever, looking at the guy and the limited stuff that I had seen from him in CS. Moving into Valorant, I was like, the guy's maybe a little bit washed. He's just coming in for a paycheck.
Yeah, well, see, that I think that is, to me, that last point you made is why I love and am so captivated by the players who come from CS that were struggling to Valorant but look so rejuvenated. I think that's why it's so special and so engaging, is because we see this in every new game that comes out that wants to be an esport title. You see the same faces switch to every new game, just trying to collect a check, trying to get signed by a team. I mean, you see this over and over and over and over and over and fucking over again.
Of course.
So when you see guys who come in and look like they actually just want to win, it is really, really cool. And especially someone like him who's just been playing CS for so long, man. I mean, he'd been playing with Hellraisers for so many years. And for the longest time, it looked like he was just kind of slowly falling off more and more as time went on. He looked less and less like a legit fragging player on that team as Hellraiser's struggles continued, the roster struggles continued. They just couldn't put anything together like they sort of had early in CSGO and like the OG roster with like him and Doja, etc. And after all that time, to come into Valorant and be such a crazy fragger, and also not just his ability to actually get kills with the guns and with like great aim, but he's also so good with the Omen utility. I mean, he's one of the Omens really pushing the limits of what you can do with the utility forward.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the stuff in Europe is kind of taken from Korea, the Omen that plays for NIP. But there's also a bunch of stuff that Angel has innovated. And the Omen gameplay in Europe is way higher than it is in North America. I can say that with absolute confidence. If you're an Omen and you're looking to improve, go and look at some of the Omens at the top of Europe, because they have pushed the game way further than North American players have. And what's interesting about that is Angel isn't even known for his Omen. He's known for sticking to Brim when everyone else is playing Omen. How silly is that? Like, the guy is ahead, in my opinion, of the smoking metagame. As weird as that sounds, as niche as that is, he has already done so much on Omen, and you know, found great ways of being able to open up and set up defaults where you're taking advantage of the Omen teleport to break timings, for example. If you're really interested in this and you want to go and do your own research, take a look at the attacking default for FPX on Haven, and look at Angel and what he does there. This is something totally unique to him that he came up with, where he breaks the timing and takes early mid control by teleporting aggressively from grass. There's one for all the nerds who are looking to do their own research in the middle of this video. But Angel himself, the like meme about Angel is that he plays Brim all the time. You can see that he's played 80 maps of Brim compared to 48 of Omen. And that's because at the absolute top level that Angel plays at, he can find specific times to get value out of just hitting 3 smokes onto a site and engaging on the site. And because he plays an entry for his team, I don't want to say the entry for his team because Zyppan also does that, but Angel is often entrying for his team, and he's very effective at it. And because you're entrying, you kind of want to be playing a agent that gets all their utility out at the beginning, and then they're just a man with a gun. You know what I mean? They put down their smokes, and then it doesn't matter if they die, because they don't have any more value to give in the round, except for their fragging. And that is kind of the style that Angel wants to bring to the game, and it's why Brim fits him so well. He also does it on Omen, but the Brim just fits him a bit more, because the style of his team and the style that he wants to play is that hero incarnate, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, genuinely one of my favorite players to watch, not just because of the gameplay, but the story, just where he's coming from.
And look at these stats for an entry fragger as well, by the way.
Unbelievably good.
Incredibly good. Yeah. His wide swings, and he mostly uses the Vandal. There are AWPers in Europe that are scared to go up against Angels entrying, because the guy will just wide swing and hit that first shot with the Vandal, and it doesn't matter if you're holding the angle with the AWP. You just can't react in time sometimes.
Yeah,
it's so scary. I love actually watching Mixwell's POV when he streams G2 games, because you can tell that he's actively scared of Angel and Zyppan with these wide swings with the Vandal. And you just don't get that in many other regions. There aren't players that can hit those first shots accurately enough to inspire fear in the AWPers.
Yeah,
and that's pre-AWP nerf.
EU riflers are just built different.
They really
are. If you're going to talk about wide swinging with Vandals, you can't get a better segue into Zyppan.
You really can't, can you?
I mean, he is just, first of all, as you mentioned before, fucking great name, Pontus Eek.
I love his name.
Such a good name.
He's got my favorite name in the whole of esports, I think.
Oh,
if I have
absolutely.
a child, I don't know how I'm going to name his surname Eek. I'll have to change my name legally, I think. But my girlfriend's in the other room, so I don't want to hear this. But I'm going to name the kid Pontus Eek. It's such an incredible name. I mean, it
is so good.
He just sounds like a character out of an anime, doesn't he?
It's fucking incredible. And aside from just his great name, I mean, he is a wild player, man. He is one of the most talented riflers in the game. Also, fits in my other favorite storyline of players, really. Because personally, I come from the Fortnite scene. I love Fortnite. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I love seeing the next generation of gamers who grew up playing Fortnite. That was their first real competitive gaming experience.
Yeah.
Transition into a new game and see where it can take them, because Fortnite was and is, if you're playing on PC, or controller, it's incredibly mechanically demanding, and it really pushes you to your limits in terms of movement and aim. And seeing that generation of gamers who've come up practicing that game and transition into something new, something so different as well, really, in terms of the movement mechanics that you actually need to pull off.
Yeah.
And seeing them succeed in this way is so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can really say about Zyppan. The team name was Zyppan Go Kill before it was Fun Plus Phoenix, because Zyppan just goes and he kills and they win.
Yeah,
and he plays Raze all the time. Obviously you can see on the stat page he's played a couple other agents, but that was I think years ago.
I believe the only time that he's not played Raze in recent history was that one game of Phoenix. This one game of Phoenix was actually recent, and I took special note of it because he's played 104 games of Raze, and then everything else. Now, that to me there's a slight downside to Zyppan in that he's such an incredible rifler. I mean, I can't impress on our audience enough how much of a transcendent rifle talent this guy is. He may be, and this is not, I don't think this is an exaggeration, he may be the best rifler in the world right now. Genuinely, this guy has a very good argument for being the best rifler in the world. And very few people talk about him in that way. You ask anybody who the best player in the world is, I don't think Zyppan gets mentioned by anyone who doesn't actively play in Europe. Like, the guy's criminally underrated. And not in the... Okay, people still recognize that Zyppan is good if they've ever watched FPX, but the very fact that he isn't in the conversation for greatest players in Valorant right now is to me, just evidence of the fact that he's underrated.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, he is one of the best duelists, if not potentially the best.
104 games of Raze played, averaging 0.93 KPR.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And
bonkers.
You know what's something that I actually love about Zyppan, and I think it's a fairly, I'm not going to say unique, but it's an attribute of aim style that I think you can attribute more to Fortnite players than people who come from CS or other tactical shooters.
Okay.
Is that Zyppan is incredibly good at aiming vertically and diagonally, where a lot of CS players are far more used to aiming on a static level. You will see Zyppan more than other players very accurately just dome jets, flying rays, people in the air.
Sure.
And it's a now you're thinking, why do you bring this up? Why does that matter? Because it's sort of niche, right? Like headshotting a flying rays, it's cool. But how important is it? Well, the new map Icebox, verticality is really the key element of that map.
It's everything.
And so I wonder if players like him, and I think players like him, are going to have a significant rifling advantage on a map like that, because obviously when you're playing Fortnite, you're in build battles. You are building. You have to be aiming up and
People
down.
are in the
You're
sky.
aiming everywhere constantly. Your mechanics in that game are pushed to the limit, okay? And on maps like Icebox, and if the map developers continue to be adventurous in the verticality or other just mechanics of the little niche mechanics like the zip lines, etc., on maps, things like that, I feel like a player with aim mechanics like him, he's going to succeed on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've watched a lot of streams from the European guys when they're playing matches, because a quirk of Europe is that a lot of the guys like to stream while they're actually playing, and you can hear their comms at the same time. The Liquid guys got rolled by Zyppan a couple of times, and they're like, how is this kid a Fortnite pro? Like, how is he ruining us? The guy played Fortnite. Like, a lot of the CS people love to disrespect Fortnite, but you cannot argue with the raw aim required in games like Fortnite, and to a lesser extent Overwatch as well, because people move around the map so quickly and so dynamically across the Y-axis as well as the X. For Zyppan, though, I was going to say the one downside to him is that there's so much rifling involved with his style of play that I'm not exactly sure how deep his agent pool is going to be. I mean, of course, you would always expect his rifling to be great. And I'm not saying that his ability usage is bad. It isn't in any sense when it comes to Raze. But he's so hyper-specialized in Raze that I don't know how deep his agent pool goes in terms of great utility usage across all of the agents. And at the moment, I think he's playing Raze because the man is dominating on Raze, and Raze is pretty good across all maps right now. But if he is required to step outside of his agent pool, which I don't think he is when it comes to First Strike, but maybe some future tournament, it will be a bit of an unknown for us viewing Zyppan. We don't know exactly how he's going to perform on other agents and whether it's going to be at this elite level that we expect from him.
Yeah. Yeah, it is just, at this point, it is just a question mark. Though I don't think he will have a problem moving over to other agents. I can't foresee him really having trouble playing the Flash agents in particular.
Sure.
I think he would be fine on those. You know, if you're getting more towards like Jett, things that are more utility dependent, that is, I think, a bigger question mark. But he is at a level of talent so high that I just don't foresee him really struggling to switch to any other duelist agent at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy's just an actual god, isn't he? So
Yeah.
it's not too bad. So I think a natural transition from Zyppan, though, is to talk about Shao.
Sure.
Now, the reason that I transitioned from Zyppan to Shao is that Shao was actually the duelist player, the star player for the Russian team that, if you remember earlier, we were talking about a CIS team combined with the Swedish team to form FPX. Shao was the star player, the Raze player as well, of that team, Party Parrots. And instead, he's taken a back seat. Shao was genuinely one of the best players in Europe in terms of his fragging, in terms of what he could do on the duelist role, and he took a back seat, he took a supportive role, and allowed Zyppan to shine. That's how good Zyppan is, and that's also how good Shao is, because he has become one of the better fragging Sovas in the scene as well. A little comparable to somebody like Ardiis, perhaps, in terms of
absolutely.
We know that the guy can rifle, we know that the guy can AWP, and he is playing the supportive role and still putting up, again, unbelievable statistics on that role. A 0.83 KPR, 1.36 KD, again, ridiculous kind of stats. And you'll see him here on the Raze. He doesn't play that anymore. These stats are based on his play in Party Parrots, but he does, or he has, played the Sage when it comes to Split. They used to play Sage on Split. And again, the stats that he's putting up there are incredible, kind of giving us some idea that the guy can just essentially play anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very good point as well, though. Yeah, it's reminiscent of Ardiis. It's reminiscent of Patty Tech on G2 as well, switching from the Duelist to the Omen. And I mean, I suppose in a way that is just a exemplifies a common theme that is going to be important if you want to have a Valorant super team or to build a great Valorant team, is that you need players who are multifaceted. They can play all types of agents. They can fill into different roles and succeed on different roles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have two super teams in EU, both of which have players not on their main roles, but are wildly successful on the roles that the team needs. Yeah, he's been excellent on the Sova. And I mean, they still do play Sage on Split, right? If I remember correctly, they still had him on Sage.
Yes, even post-nerf, I believe. Yeah.
If you want to double check, I believe in that last G2 game at Blast, he was still on Sage on the final map.
Yes, I think so. And this was Split. Yep, they ran him on Sage.
Yeah, he was. Yep. Yeah, I mean, he had a great game as well.
I believe earlier in the tournament, they were actually running him on Sova to see whether they could get value after the Sage nerf running the Sova instead. But they actually lost that pretty badly, and they swapped over to the Sage, and they ended up doing much better. I mean, they were within touching distance in this game. And he actually top-fragged, interestingly, here as well. The guy is incredibly talented, and definitely an enormous talent. Something I would like to point out here as well, Wyatt, is something that Reddit has noticed, which I had actually not. This is one of those moments where you have to admit your hubris. I was too close to the sun to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know, just absolute mixed metaphors there, but
sure, I'm rolling with you.
I tried to keep it light related. Anyway, one of the biggest Reddit narratives about FPX, which is definitely true, though it doesn't tell the full picture, is that FPX have a really strategic style that likes to emphasize the kind of the math-esque play. It was something we were talking about at the beginning of the video, and it's based on getting people ultimates. So a lot of the time, their Brimstone Angel will play for the ultimate orbs on Bind, but something that Reddit really noticed as well is that Shadow, who is their Breach player, often gets the bomb plants in order to maximize his ult percentages as well. Now, I looked over the stats, and I also realized that this applies to Shao too, because when he plays the Sova, which he's only ever played whilst playing for FPX, he has 156 plants playing Sova. Yeah. Now, you compare that to someone like Zyppan, who I've now lost, so I'm going to bring up. I just clicked on Meadow. Okay. We'll go back. We'll click on Zyppan.
All right, wine's hitting.
Yeah, exactly. He has 72 plants over 104 maps average, right? Yeah. So that's pretty low considering the amount of games he's played. Shao has 156 over 83, massively higher. And Shadow's stats are in a similar position, so they're averaging above 1.6, 1.7 plants per map. Now, that doesn't sound very high, but when you consider that you can only get plants on one half of the map's rounds anyway. So you're already max averaging 12, and you don't normally play that many rounds when it comes to attack. Plus the fact that a lot of those rounds you aren't even getting to the bomb side and planting anyway. Actually, a 1.6 plants per map is actually a really high stat when it comes to these individual players. And so for Shao and also for Shadow, part of the FPX strategy is prioritizing these guys on the plants so that they can get these their ultimates to get higher. And that also applies to the diffusers as well. If they're alive in the post-plant scenario, they will prioritize them to be able to get their ultimates up. And again, this just comes back to Angel's style of IGLing, where he's already thinking about kind of the math involved and trying to stack ults on Shao and on Shadow so that they have these big ultimates up to be able to influence the rounds later on in the map.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. I mean, of course, right, Zyppan having a low plant amount makes sense. On the Raze, Entrier, he's going to be getting mostly kills to fuel his ult economy. That makes complete sense. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're on the, well, specifically in the way they play as well, but on the Sova, on the Breach, where they have a fairly passive Breach player, they you know, those guys are coming in for the trades, or they're coming in for the plant for the trades, right? And it makes sense. I mean, Sova's ult is unbelievably powerful.
It really is
unbelievably powerful. So maximizing your Sova ult makes a lot of sense to me. That is a very interesting small detail that I didn't know either. But yeah, it really does add to the
all hail Reddit,
the true narrative. Yeah, thank you, Reddit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does add to, I guess, just their overall play style, the overall. I don't know how you would call it.
Like I said, thinking man's team.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the thinking man's team. Dude, that is about to fly. That white t-shirt was about to get stained. That was almost disastrous.
I tried to maintain eye contact with the camera to maximize the meme value of the clip, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if we do want to go over to Shadow now, typically if someone on the team does pick up the op, it is going to be him. And
weird, right? Like, that is strange. Weird.
Yeah, but you know what? With the recent op changes, I like it because he's a fairly passive, static, I'm going to hold this angle type opper on attack and defense. He's not, I mean, obviously Breach will not set you up for certain aggressive plays like a Jett will when you are opping. Of course, you can't hold the same angles and not have the, you know, you're going to actually have a fear for your life if you're playing an aggressive angle on the Breach. You can't dash out, of course. So, yeah, it's interesting. He is typically the opper for the team if they do have one. And he's one of the oppers who has a style that I can't foresee being affected by the op changes, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy opted when it came to his previous team as well, so it wasn't like he had to change his role when he came into FPX. He's one of the few opping breaches in the scene. I mean, the only other one that I could think of really is Shazam, who plays the breach on Ascent. Does he play it on any of the other maps?
Just Ascent.
I think it's just Ascent, right, yeah. Whereas Shadow plays it everywhere. And FPX have been playing the breach since time immemorial. They've been playing it literally since their first games because Shadow basically only plays it. I mean, you can see here that his stats are 85 maps played of breach. He used to play the Sage for Fabrican when they needed it, when it came to split. He no longer does that for his current team, FPX. And he is really just the guy that's going to pick up the AWP for them. He's probably their weakest rifler, and he's still a very good rifler as well. This team really is a super team in terms of talent. They don't have a weak spot when it comes to rifles. If anyone, it would be Shadow, and he really is not weak.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I mean, he's typically just going to, I suppose, if you were just viewing statistics, and didn't have a chance to really watch the games, he would sort of be the statistical outlier in terms of he would typically be on the bottom. But that is the way he plays being a direct cause of that. He is he is a passive player on the team. He's one of the last guys to go in on sites on attack. Yeah, and he's just going to hold a flank angle with the op. Like if they're taking mid control on Ascent, he will be in that mid B connector, just scoped in on Catwalk, staring at it for someone to peek. He's not pushing up, trying to get some type of aggressive angle. He is watching their flanks. He is a protective opper. So he's just not the guy on the team who's going to be racking up kills, but he is an effective player on that team in his ability to shut down flanks when they're on attack, be the man who's going to be covering them, and be a late man hitting the sites. He's going to be there in post-plant situations for them as well. Yeah, he's a consistent, solid player on the team, and every team needs a player like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he is filling his role, and if I guess you didn't have a chance to watch, or just based on stats, if maybe it appeared that he was in some way a weaker spot on the team, just absolutely, just not the case. He is a solid rifler, solid opper, and he fills his role on the team perfectly.
Yeah, I would also say probably FPX have the best breach usage out of any team in Europe and North America. You could you don't think?
Keep going. Well, I was going to say I think Shazam's breach on Ascent is really good. I love the way that they play that map, but they obviously, no other top team plays as much breach as FPX do, and I would say certainly on every other map from what we've seen so far, I think the breach usage is the best. And even then, I'm not making, I guess, a hard argument in favor of Sentinels, but I think you'd have to give it to those two teams.
Sure. And I was gonna say as well that outside of that, it's really the Vision Strikers that have set up some of the best breach gameplay, to be honest, when it comes to the flash usage.
Very fair.
But Shadow is, at least when it comes to Europe, kind of leading the way because he's played it for so long. Party Pirates, the team that Angel used to IGL for, had another breach called 7 SSK7, who was another Fortnite player, apparently, Wyatt. Don't know whether you know that, but yeah, he was a Fortnite player. He's now playing at the kind of the tier 2 level, who was also a really good breach player as well. But unfortunately kind of languishing currently at the tier 2 level because he was left out of this super team. So that leaves us to the final player, Meadow, who is their Cypher player. And although it is difficult to say exactly where he would rank in terms of Cypher players, he gets a lot of value out of a low-value position. Cypher is generally somewhere where you don't see a lot of value for a player. I would say Meadow is like the quintessential Cypher. He's very, very passive. Very watching flanks, very baity, but it's almost exactly what this team needs because they already have Angel and Zyppan, who are hyper aggro entry players. They have another star player in Shao who can do everything. They have Shadow, who's going to sit and hold an angle on the orb, and so Meadow kind of fills that role of being your like quintessential. I am going to sit and stay alive for as long as humanly possible, cover flank angles. Play for the clutch, and then get a 3k in the clutch or 3k holding a site. Like, that is Meadow to me. He's almost the definition of what Cypher is. I'm not saying he's the best Cypher, but he is, like, if you had to kind of make a stereotype of Cypher, it would be Meadow.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has you just listed them off, so I don't need to rehash them all. But every quality you just mentioned of a Cypher, the clutch ability, holding down bomb sites and 1vx's, etc. Yeah, he does it all. I mean, he does every essential element of Cypher at a very, very good level. And yeah, he's another role player in the team. You need role players in any team to succeed. You need your stars, you need the sick entriers, but you need good role players. That is just the nature of this style of game. And that is exactly what Meadow offers. Yeah, I mean, Meadow and Shadow are the two role players on the team. They offer the team exactly what they need. They rarely make mistakes. Very rarely, especially Meadow. He's very, very consistent in his play. An excellent clutcher. I mean, to me, one of the biggest signifiers of a true great Cypher is their clutch ability and their 1vx ability, because that is a situation, rather those are situations that Cyphers are put in very often, more often than other agents in the game. And if you succeed in those situations at a fairly high rate, you are doing one of the most key elements of Cypher very, very right. Yeah, I just 100% agree with you. There isn't really much more for me to say. He does just exemplify all the excellent qualities of a Cypher in just one player, and he fits into the system.
He certainly does. I think that most people would have him weirdly as like the second best Cypher from Sweden, considering the Pith is also from Sweden, the sure. G2 player. But the guy's really good. And FPX overall, let's talk a small amount here about their first strike kind of performances, as we have the VOD running of their previous mix against G2. FPX are a very consistent team, I would say. Someone who would take a glance over their VLR.GG profile right now would see that they recently lost a BO1 to Oxygen, but then when you actually take a closer look at it, you will see that they were trolling when it came to their team composition. They had everybody on off roles, and as soon as they went back to their full roles, they dominate with consistency any tier 2 team. They have a huge amount of talent, a playstyle that just lends itself to consistency. I don't see any world in which this team goes out, even in like the heavy BO1 stage of the European First Strike tournament. And so the goal for them,
highly unlikely.
Yeah, the goal for them is just to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, they should be looking to win. Period. There's no way they're going to be satisfied with another second place finish. And it's as you said earlier, every tournament for them against G2, because obviously that is the ultimate European matchup at this point. It doesn't get better than G2 versus FPX. That is the final that I certainly foresee happening in First Strike. Both teams are very consistent, really.
Yeah, they are.
Both of them incredibly consistent. It's FPX really only loses to G2. So
yes, they do.
I think really expecting anything other than these two teams as the finale of the event would be a shocking end.
It would be incredible.
It would be shocking to not see these two teams in the final. And they should be looking for first. Yeah. I mean, they were just a hair away from winning. I mean, I can't harp on enough. That last split map with them versus G2 in the Blast final, it was a 13-11.
Yeah.
G2 won off of just pure individual insanity at the final hour. It was Mixwell hitting a collateral op into another kill after that. Like, just crazy individual plays at the very end that took G2 over the edge. But consistently throughout that BO5, FPX looked in control. And going forward, they have to be getting first here. I mean, that is their goal, right? They anything else, I think, is probably a failure in their eyes, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team is fantastic. I would personally say, I know that this might be a bit of a controversial statement in the wider Valorant scene, but I would say that FPX versus G2 is a much better rivalry than Sentinels versus TSM. I know that Sentinels versus TSM.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean dude, that might be a hot take to. I'm sure that's a hot take to some people, but I mean, that's for me. That is just a standard take.
Yeah.
You say that, and I say, oh, okay, yeah, sure, of course, right.
The thing is, though, for a lot of people, you can't have a rivalry if one team is always beating the other. But I say that is nonsense. A rivalry is where one team is getting blocked by the other from gaining their championships. If there was no G2 in the scene, FPX would be rolling everything. They would be the G2 of Europe. They'd be, head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the competition. So there is a clear rivalry here where it's number one and number two. It just so happens that number one keeps beating number two. That doesn't stop it from being a rivalry, though. There's still a clear battle between these two teams, and G2 are always pressured to keep their number one spot. And so to me, that is one of the most interesting stories in the entirety of First Strike, be it any region, is this battle between G2 and FPX. Because unlike in NA, where it seems that Sentinels have pulled ahead of TSM and for my money, are probably going to stay ahead of TSM, at least in terms of consistency over time. FPX and G2 are in a different situation, where the team below is on a trajectory to overtake. And I don't know when the time is that they are likely to overtake, but it seems from all of the evidence that we currently have from the matches that it might be first strike. This might be the time when FPX overtakes, is right now at the most pivotal moment in Valorant's developmental history. When it comes to the history of Valorant, we are more likely to remember the first Riot run tournament than we are to remember dominance over the Ignition series. And that, to me, I mean, this could be history in the making right now.
You're absolutely correct. And I think there are several key reasons as to why this rivalry is so good. Of course, the obvious, FPX is the one team that now has consistently just been pushing G2 to their limits, where you have to watch them literally pull off miracles to win these maps. So they have pushed G2 as far as we've seen G2 go. But past that, these two rosters, I mean, outside of Sentinels, there are no other rosters that are so well-rounded. There is no weak link on either team.
Yeah.
They are perfectly well-rounded. And then past that, stylistically, it doesn't get more different. You have just the frag-hungry, fluid team and versus just this tactical, high IQ, mastermind thinking man's team. And it is direct opposites. And all the players involved are insanely talented. So it just creates these amazing matches. It is such a good rivalry. And further than that, in terms of the rivalry, FPX losing every time, but being so close. That sweet release of serotonin when they finally get the victory is going to be so good. It is going to be such a hype moment when they're finally able to do it.
Yep.
I think people want to see them do it at this point. And I think when you watch these two teams, people are going to be rooting for FPX. People want to see them finally win. And it is going to be so goddamn exciting when they do. It is such a good rivalry. I mean, if you just look at the results and you're like, oh, what rivalry? See ya. Because this shit is so good.
It really is. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you're getting constantly blue-balled when you're an FPX fan.
Exactly.
You really are.
You're waiting for that sweet release.
I am an FPX fan. I love watching G2. They're maybe my favorite team to watch. But when I watch the FPX versus G2 games, I swap from being a G2 simp to being an FPX simp. Because you can't help but love the style that they play and the strategy they bring to the table. And the insane fragging of Zyppan. And okay, maybe the fragging doesn't quite go as deep as G2 does. But when you see them constantly get so close and yet lose over and over again, it gets you to the point where you just demand the win to happen. And I'm not... Life is not an anime. We don't know that it's going to happen during first strike. But it seems like the trajectory is on path, right? It just seems like it could be.
But it can be.
And even if it doesn't happen, I'm ready to get blue-balled again. I'm ready. I'm ready and then have to cut it short. I'm ready to have to walk away from my PC frothing.
Yep, writhing in dissatisfaction in your gamer chair. It's genuine. Yeah, the thing is, I actually thought, though, I can't remember if I said this on the podcast, but I thought that FPX were going to win Blast. I predicted them to win that.
Sure. And very reasonable prediction. We thought that was going to be the time that they overtook.
Almost right. Yeah, I thought that they were going to finally do it. I'm like, because there were so many EU events with random ass names and egregious formats that I don't remember what was happening before that. All these tournaments have just molded together in my mind. But it was the tournament previous to that where, again, they were so close. Oh, it was the one where Zyppan DC'd on split, holding the ropes. Yeah, this is actually a great context for people that weren't able to watch that match. You should go back and, if you can, Josh, on your monitor.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that clip.
That was. Because it was the tournament before Blast. It was another nail-biter split game. Could have gone either way. And well, it was FPX on the comeback, right? I think they were on the comeback on defense, and Zyppan DC'd holding
It was the
ropes.
Allied Esports Odyssey.
There you go.
No, sorry, it wasn't, because the grand final has them losing on Ascent and Bind. It wasn't that. It must have been the one just after that. It was the level 2. It was the level Clash 2. 100% it was level Clash 2.
Yeah. And it was that last map. He DC'd while they were on the comeback trail on Split, while he was holding ropes, and literally just got pushed in ropes at that second and died. And that crucial round very well may have lost them the game. And it looked so close, though. And it was just after that, the next tournament blast. I'm like, okay, FPX, they have been around for a shorter period of time than G2. They have just a world of potential from so many different facets in terms of their gameplay playing into that. And so close, but they couldn't do it. I thought they were going to do it. And now, honestly, First Strike, again, I'm going to predict them to win. I think that they're going to win now on First Strike. They think surely they're going to do it this time, right? Surely.
I mean, there's absolutely no guarantee, but yeah.
I know there is literally no guarantee. I mean, it's genuinely. I mean, if they play right now, how do you rate this game in terms of like percentage odds? Because I am literally 50-50.
Yeah, especially with the op nerf coming in for Mixwell.
Yeah,
I feel like that it hits him way more.
52-48 for FPX.
It's so close, isn't it? I mean, I've just got this VOD up right now because I love the pain of being an FPX fan and seeing this happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, can we just experience this one more time? Can we just have a...
Tragic. Oh, I forgot it was on an eco as well.
Yeah, they lost to an eco.
Horrendous.
They were coming back. They had got G2 down to an eco, and Zyppan's PC froze right now. And as he comes back in, he just sees 3 people teleport in front of him. Again, for anyone who wants to go and do their own research, you can see this from Zyppan's point of view on his Twitter, and it was just tragic.
Yeah, that is genuine tragedy.
Just bone-hurting juice happening right there. And again, that's exactly what you live for if you're an FPX fan. You live
for sure.
You live for your bones just hurting with the pain of it.
But that is why when they finally do it, it's gonna be even more satisfying.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need tissues to clean up.
Like at the end of the day, I am just a fan of the game and good gameplay.
God, it comes down to a 1v1 at the end of it as well.
Just absurd.
And Patidek has to hit that shot to win.
Just absurd.
And the casters, listen to the casters. They're like,
and you gotta say, Mitch, G2
I mean, I can't
0.
hear it, so.
They're like G2.
But
what happened to Zyppan?
What was that moment?
What happened to Zyppan? What was that moment? That's all they can say at the end of the VOD. That's all they can say because that dominated that final map. Oh, God. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just
tragic.
The story of FPX is just wanting it so bad and coming so close and never quite getting there.
But to go back to what you were saying about like the TSM versus Sentinels rivalry versus this one, like I am just a fan of Valorant and good gameplay and good teams, interesting strategy, great player. I'm just a fan of watching the game. I love the game. Okay. There is no like, if TSM beats Sentinels, it's like, okay, cool. If Sentinels beat TSM, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I want to see this happen. I genuinely want to see FPX win. It is just exciting in a different way because of these past games, because of what we've seen so far. It is just, it is genuinely such a good rivalry. It is so good.
Well, now that we have thoroughly hyped ourselves up for a match that isn't going to happen for another 2 or 3 months. Yeah, 2 months actually.
Maybe we'll get another Best in the West showdown.
You can tell that me and Wyatt are fans of FPX because we've gone for 54 minutes right now talking about this team.
Lord.
I mean, we've just gone for way too long. Like these videos when we came up with the idea was supposed to be like 15 minutes. No one's even made it to this point. We're just rambling for our own enjoyment.
Very true.
Yeah.
If you made it this far in the video, make sure to leave a comment and say that you made it this far in the video.
There will be literally 0 comments that have made it this far.
I genuinely want to see.
I don't know. But for anyone who was sitting down with a glass of wine, enjoying the thinking man's team of FPX.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching this far in the video, and my God, won't we all enjoy it when FPX finally win that tournament that they are just destined to win? Any fans of Destiny, of Valorant, of strategy, of Reddit, of Angel, of anything, this is your team.
If you're
It's
a fan
Fun
of
plus Phoenix.
anything.
Yeah, if you're a fan of anything.
I mean, if you've seen anything that you like, you're going to like this. That's all we got.
And with that, I think we'll leave you. We've got further First Strike videos coming up for you later on. I think Wyatt's going to be doing a video with Bren about Game Landers coming up. We've got a bunch of other videos about NA teams after the Renegades NSG tournament. Some videos about Cloud9, FaZe. All of the top teams are going to be coming at you after this. I can't promise they're going to be 55-minute videos of us just cooming constantly, but it's going to be it's going to be somewhat similar. So
oh my Lord.
Strap yourselves in, hit us with the subscribe and the like on the video. Tell us what team you want us to cover next, and we'll see you in the next video. Swirls Wine 5 head.